welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey. You look particularly lovely tonight.
Why, thank you. Hello.
You really look good. Hello.
Hello.
I'm John. She's Stacey, and if she doesn't distract me too much. So, this is a Paranormal Sideshow, and boy, howdy, is there some weirdness going on. I mean, listen, the world is a little bit weird. It's a lot weird. It's strange.
A lot weird.
It's peculiar. Mm-hmm. It's weird. I mean, like that's an all-encompassing globe,
right, of
just the kind of shenanigans that's been going on. I don't know. It's like every day there's a 1,000-year itch. There's a 1,000-year storm. There's a
right, or this has not happened before, or
rabbit kangaroo. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Mm-hmm. We got most of it here for you today. We've got a lot of cool stories to go into. I've got some little stories that I want to get into. There's a whole bunch of fun that we got for you. Some creepy, crawly, kooky, scary.
All the things.
All the things
we like. You know, they're putting Halloween stuff out at the stores now.
They are. They are.
So excited.
That always gets us.
Yes.
Randy,
some new home decor.
Yeah, it is home decor. But it's a lot of excitement. Of course, we're in the midst of becoming Big Blue Nation. We're in the midst of little Kentuckyism. We're going to be the Kentuckians.
Yes, we are. I'm excited.
Pretty cool. Lexington is an awesome place. Mm-hmm. I've already been up there quite a bit working. We're looking forward to the mystical fairs. We're looking forward to big time. Join us at Scarefest.
Yes.
We're going to be at Scarefest. We're going to be there all weekend from the very time it opens to the time it closes. You can come by, meet us. You know, we're going to be doing some podcasting there.
Yeah, we'll be doing this.
We will be doing this in a sense. And by the way, hello to everybody on Paranormal TV. We see you guys. Hope you guys come to Scarefest as well and support Paranormal TV, support all the fun stuff going on. We can't wait to see you. Okay, well, you had a dream.
I did. A very strange dream.
It was a very strange dream.
It's very strange.
So this is really how this works. We don't set any of this crap up, okay? She told me about the dream before we went on, and I was like, oh, honey. I'm not going to even try to decipher that crazy kooky thing by myself.
Right.
So I want you to tell our friends about your dream, and I'm going to use a dream dictionary to look up and see what we find. So I'm going to take a few notes, so you have to excuse me, folks, because I'm really working here.
Okay.
So you go ahead and tell the dream.
Okay, so I had this dream the other night, and it was really, really odd. So in my dream...
You know what'd be cool? While you're telling your dream, if we kind of went to a little dee-doo-doo-doo-doo and maybe just showed some really crappy pictures or something of some of the things you're talking about.
Okay. I'll see if I can find something that sort of shows what I'm trying to describe.
There you go.
Okay. Right. So anyway, in my dream, I got a new aquarium, fish tank aquarium, and for some reason in the dream, I was really excited about getting this aquarium. It was very fancy and very expensive. And so it was this big, like, tropical fish aquarium. And in it, there were lots of plants. It was very over-the-top decorated. There was fish in it. But also in this aquarium, there was another animal that it was very weird. It was very long and red, very, very red. This is important because in my dreams, colors, there's always a color that kind of shines at me. And for me, this time it was this red. And it was in my head, it was a dog. There was a dog in my aquarium that just laid on the top and part of his head stuck out so I could pet him. I don't know. That was, and
Oh, dog.
So at the time,
what kind of dog was it?
I don't know. At first, I didn't know. At first, it just looked like very long and red. And when I say red, I mean like Clifford the Big Red Dog red, like very red. And I didn't know what kind of dog it was at first. And it even was not strange to me at first that this was in the tank. At first, when I got it, I was like, that is so pretty. I'm so glad I have this. And it didn't even Like there was nothing in my head that this shouldn't be like this. So after I had the tank for a while, I guess I woke up one day, it was in my bedroom, and I went to the tank and all of the fish were dead. Now, in my head, all of the fish were dead, but when I'm looking at it in the dream, they're actually just gone. The fish are just gone. But for some reason, I was equating that with all the fish died. But it's not like there was dead fish floating in the tank. There weren't any fish. And it was just the plants and that dog. And so I was like, oh, that's terrible, but at least I still have, the dog and I can pet it. But then the more I sat there, the more it started dawning on me that that dog shouldn't be in there. And I was thinking, how does he eat? He can't eat when he's in there, and he really shouldn't be in the water. And
He eats fish.
And I was like, I wonder if I could just take him out. And I was concerned that taking him out would kill him for some reason. But after a while, I decided I was just going to take him out and wrap him up in a towel and keep him. So when I went to get him out, I picked him up. And when I picked him up, he looked very much like a corgi. Okay. Just very red, like even the red color kind of diminished and it went more of that orangey corgi color. And I was like, oh, it's going to be a corgi. It's going to be so cute. And I wrapped him up in a towel, just drying him off, and I got like food, like normal food you would get for a dog. And I put it on the ground with dishes with the food and water. And I was drying him off with a towel. No, it was just food and water. And I put the dog down. And as I was drying it off, I noticed that it was getting smaller and smaller. And I thought, well, I guess it's just releasing all the water, like it was holding water or something. I don't know. This is not intelligible at all. And so I kept drying it off. And eventually I pulled the towel down and it was a cat. It wasn't a dog. It was a cat. And it was a Siamese cat. Like I was behind it when I put it down, but I noticed it was a cat and I leaned over it and looked at its face and it was distinctly a Siamese cat. And I remember saying, that is a Siamese cat. And the cat looked at me and over its left eye, there was a marking. It was like a moon sort of shape marking and not like
Over which eye?
Over its left eye. And not like a cat mark, like somebody tattooed a moon on this cat. Like it was drawn on there. It wasn't like just some random coloring or something. And I was like, that's very weird. And I remember thinking that the cat looked a lot like Luna. That stray that we had at the one time that was kind of Siamese-ish. And then I woke up and that was my dream. So very strange. Definitely one of those dreams where I feel like it's trying to tell me something because it wasn't like, sometimes I have dreams where I feel like I'm somebody else. That wasn't this. This was more like I'm trying to be told something.
Oh, no,
here.
you're totally Stacey in that one.
Yeah, that's totally me. So.
Let's look it up.
Okay, then.
All right. Now, I believe in doing dream interpretation based on the person and what I know of the person.
Right,
and what you dream about, but we're going to use a book.
Okay. This will be fun.
So I'm going to start out with aquariums.
Okay. And what does it say?
See fish.
Oh. Okay. So see fish.
Fish. To see fish swimming freely in clear water is an omen of wealth and personal power. If you were fishing in clear water and could see the fish bite, it would indicate, well, that's not you. Hold on a second. Dead fish, either in their natural habitat or in a market, are an omen of disappointment or discouragement. You didn't ever see the dead fish. I didn't see
the dead fish, though. They were just gone.
To dream of catching it, you don't need to catch a fish. You know how to catch a fish. Mm-hmm. If you saw a fish moving into its fins, no, that's not it. If your fish featured carp, no.
How very specific on the fish dreams.
Eating or cooking fit, no. Tropical or goldfish in tanks, bowls, or pools indicate ephemeral pleasures.
Oh.
So short-lived pleasures.
Yeah.
Like sex with a teenager.
I mean, if that's what you're into, I guess.
Like when you're a teenager.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Not now.
I'm not going to judge.
That's basically it. So what we got out of this?
Okay, so we got that they symbolized ephemeral pleasures.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go to red.
Red, okay.
Red. All right, red. See colors. Ah, colors.
Colors, okay. Skimmed a red there.
Yeah. You can expect increasing security and success in all of your affairs. If you dreamed of a mixture of bright colors individually, or if one color stood out in your dream, the significance is as follows.
Okay.
Do you want to know them all or just yours?
Just mine. Let's just keep it simple.
Bright red is a warning to curb your temper.
Ooh.
Deep red forecast unexpected good news. That's the only two reds.
I don't know. What would constitute a deep red? Would that be more like a maroon?
Like blood.
Yeah, because this was more of a bright red because it went to orange.
Okay.
So I should probably just keep my temper in check.
Orange suggests that an unexpected change in your situation will be delayed. So we got...
So ephemeral pleasures are going to be gone quickly. Got to keep my temper in check.
Because it's you, I wonder if I should put that other red in there as well. You're not particularly confident on that.
No.
Because it had the orange in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the orange suggests that an unexpected change in your situation will be delayed. So let's just put that.
Okay. I did have both the colors, yes.
Yes. It's weird.
Guess it doesn't matter if it's delayed, if it's unexpected. Right?
Don't get all. So
what about the dog, maybe?
It didn't say see anything.
Oh, good.
Dog. As a general rule, dogs in a dream are a good omen.
Yay, finally.
And symbolize friends. Of course, the interpretation varies according to the action and other details, but it's fairly straightforward. If the dog was friendly and affectionate, it signifies pleasure and happy times with friends. A fierce or snarling dog suggests disagreements or untrustworthy friends. And if it bit or attacked, you're being warned to look out for actual deceit or harmful trickery from someone you have trusted. To hear a dog bark happily signifies pleasing social recognition. But if it barked fiercely, you are being warned of possible legal troubles. So don't fiddle your taxes or park your car too close to a hydrant. Mm-hmm. To see dogs fighting indicates let's see.
Anything about a dog in a fish tank?
I'm looking.
Okay.
No.
Anything about maybe saving a dog?
No. We'll go to cat.
Okay, let's go to cat.
We'll go to cat. Maybe there'll be something about a cat.
Oh, well, clearly dogs are good omens and it has something to do with friendship.
It does.
So there you go.
It does. Well, that's cart. There we go. Cat. Right under castrate, right before cataract.
Okay. Sounds like the right place for it.
Cat. A generally unfortunate omen.
Oh, no.
Indicating treachery and deceit amongst those you trust. If you killed the cat, you will defeat the purpose of your detractors.
I would never kill a cat.
If you chased it away, you may expect a sudden stroke of luck. See also animals. Would you like me to go see the animals and see what?
Maybe. That's, dog, the dog entry was like 2 pages and the cat entry was that was it.
They're pretty sure about the cat. But, the dog became the cat, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of interesting.
It is. And it was a special cat. Like it wasn't just a normal cat. It had that tattoo on it. It seemed very magical.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
It is.
That's one of the craziest parts of the dream.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Animals. To see wild animals in your dream is generally good omen. That doesn't really tell me anything. If they were calm, okay. Pertaining to business, but the interpretation depends on their attitude. If they were calm, your affairs will prosper. If they attacked you or each other, you could expect some reverses.
The animals were all calm.
Tattoo. Tattoo's not in here.
Okay. Moon, maybe?
Moon. All right, so moon. This is only like a...
It was like a little crescent moon.
Crescent moon, yeah.
A little crescent.
There's nothing close enough. So I think what we need to do is leave it up to them.
Yes.
So what we're missing out here is obviously the tattoo of the moon, the crescent moon, over the left eye, which that's interesting, of the Siamese cat, because the corgi turned into a Siamese cat when she rubbed all its fur off there. Or dried it. It kept getting smaller.
Dried it, yeah, like the water was going out of it.
I don't know. If you guys have any ideas,
Yes.
let us know. And we'll do our own research in other places.
We will.
But, it seems like you're going to have some quick pleasure.
Maybe.
And
I can't get angry about anything.
yeah.
Who knows? I know it was trying to tell me
So
something.
keep your temper in check, even if betrayed.
I guess.
Is what if I'm being serious about it. And it may be that somebody's like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Right. I do get because we're getting ready to move, I do get the whole, I'll be around more friends
I do
thing.
too.
I get that.
But you're going to be around magical friends.
That's true.
So
I am.
I think that the cat could signify a magical friend.
It could. Mm-hmm.
And it looks like a big fluffy dog to start with.
Right.
And, it's sort of trapped inside. You think you're rescuing this thing.
Right.
So that's what I think you need to be aware of about rescuing someone from a situation or something like that.
Right. And they're not what they seem to be.
Right. They're not what they seem to be. And there's a betrayal there.
Yes, which would explain the red color.
Yeah.
The red would be a warning for me.
Right.
Very good. And here I thought I was going to have to call the great Antonio and talk to him.
The way you look tonight, great Antonio doesn't need to be contacted. We'll take care of this one.
Oh, but if you have any thoughts, please let me know in the comments.
Let us know.
Tell me what you think about my dream.
So I got a few little cool stories.
Okay.
These stories, since we're leaving the area, going up to Kentucky, I was thinking of Tennessee. We're leaving Virginia. So we're not really leaving Tennessee.
Right.
But I was thinking of Tennessee.
Well, because we live Virginia, Tennessee. It's on the line.
So I want to give a shout out to Kelly Kasich
Okay.
and her Forgotten Tales of Tennessee.
Ooh, that looks interesting.
I really thought this was a cool book, man.
John loves local history books.
I do. No matter where we're at.
No matter where we go, we have to stop and find one for the place that we're at. It's like his little collection thing.
I love it. But this one was honestly, it's perfect. It's just like a quick bathroom read kind of thing, and but I love the Forgotten Tales. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. But this one, there's a few stories I had to share because they were actually very interesting.
Okay.
And one actually got my attention in a big way.
Okay.
I'm going to call them the Harpy brothers. How would you say it? Harpe. Harp or Harpy?
I don't know. You could go either way with that.
Can we go Harpy?
Let's say Harpy. I like Harpy.
So, if I ask you who America's first serial killer was, who would you say?
I would say that guy with all the H's, the Holmes, H.H. Holmes. Is that his name?
Very good.
The first Triple H.
There you go, baby. So most people would.
Right.
And I think that when you watch the danger of things like YouTube videos, not ours,
Right.
is, they'll top 10, whatever. And a lot of times they'll share with somebody else, so they'll just go to the almighty Wikipedia. Because, everything's correct on Wikipedia.
Right.
Anyway, so that's how I preface this.
Okay.
Surely the kindly man who offered aid to a traveling family had nothing to fear from the 2 men and the 3 pregnant women, did he? Had he known the men were notorious Harpy brothers who had just passed through Tennessee's Cumberland Gap into Kentucky,
Uh-oh.
he might have hesitated to pay for the group's breakfasts and asked them to accompany him along the wilderness trail. His trust would be his downfall. The brothers would soon make the well-intentioned man the latest victim on their own trail, the Trail of Carnage.
Oh, no. That's a great name.
Those who follow true crime stories often read that a man named Dr. Henry Howard Holmes was America's first serial killer. Many of Holmes's grisly crimes were committed in a hotel he opened in Chicago to lure travelers to the 1893 World's Fair. He was finally captured and confessed to the 27 murders. He is thought to have committed as many as 100 and was executed in 1896. But a century before Holmes's capture, just as America was being founded, two brothers were committing horrific murders across Tennessee and Kentucky. Tennessee historians have dubbed Micajah and Wiley Harpy as the nation's true first serial killers.
Wow.
Micajah, called Big Harpy, and Wiley, called Little Harpy, were born in North Carolina. Micajah in 1768 and Wiley in 1770. When the boys were children, their family was persecuted because their father fought with the British during the American Revolution. Some say their bitterness drove them to lives of crime. The Harpy brothers' reign of terror took place mostly in the 1790s. Accounts of their exploits vary widely, but they are credited with the murders of about 35 to 40 people.
Wow, that's a lot.
These accounts fit with the modern definition of a serial killer, a person who commits multiple murders over a period of time. One of the oft-repeated tales about the brothers is that the men traveled with 3 women. Each brother had a wife, plus there was a auxiliary wife.
Just an extra, just in case they lose one of the main ones.
Micajah was married to Susan Roberts, while his brother married Sally Rice, a minister's daughter from Tennessee. A woman who went by the name of Betsy Roberts and said she was Susan's sister, but who is thought to have been Maria Davidson, was the extra wife. The women accompanied the men on a crime spree that began in Knoxville, the then capital of Tennessee. Arriving between 1795 and 1797, the group was living on a farm near Beaver Creek when they hurriedly left in 1798 after being accused of stealing a neighbor's horse. At a tavern outside of Knoxville, the brothers murdered a man named Johnson. Johnson! Who may have been the one to tell the neighbor about the horse thefts. The man's body was later found floating in the Holston River. The body was eviscerated, and the cavities filled with stones.
What?
Which would become known as the Harpy trademark. The women accompanied the brothers on a rampage through Tennessee, killing and thieving until the Cumberland Gap was discovered and pioneers began to enter Kentucky. According to several written accounts from the 1800s, it was in December 1798 that the brothers entered the Gap, heading for Crab Orchard, a point where roads diverged to Louisville and Cincinnati. By this time, all 3 women were pregnant. The group entered John Ferris's tavern looking for food, but they were turned away because they had no money. Stephen Langford from Virginia took pity on the miserable-looking troupe and bought them breakfast. He then asked if the party wanted to join him along the Wilderness Trail. Historians report that Langford's remains, mutilated almost beyond recognition, soon were found along that trail.
Oh, it's awful. He was so nice to them.
Eventually, the Harpies and the women were captured and taken to jail in Danville, Kentucky. The jail had to be reinforced as the men had a reputation for escaping.
Wow.
Also, the jailers had to hire midwives for the 3 pregnant women and house them through a long, bitterly cold winter.
Oh my goodness.
True to their reputations, the brothers did escape, leaving behind the mothers of their children. Before the women came to trial, they gave birth. Betsy in February, Susan in March, and Sally in April.
Wow.
At their murder trials, motherhood earned them sympathy. Sally was acquitted. Betsy was found not guilty, while Susan was convicted. However, Susan's conviction was later overturned.
She was just the extra wife. Expendable.
The 3 murder suspects, now free, were given clothes, money, and a horse donated by townspeople so they could return to Tennessee. Instead, they rejoined their men.
Of course they did.
But their long, grisly crime spree would soon come to an end. Details vary on how the brothers met their ends, although most agree that Macaja was shot and beheaded in 1799. He was 31. The brothers were being trailed by a posse that included Moses Stegall, whose wife and child had been killed by the Harpies.
Oh.
A member of the posse, John Liper, is said to have shot Macaja in the back, paralyzing him, while Wiley escaped onto the Natchez Trace. He was Wiley.
Yes.
Stegall reportedly used Macaja Harpy's own knife to cut off the outlaw's head.
Well, that's...
According to legend, Macaja's head was nailed into the forks of a tree near what is now Dixon, Kentucky, leading the community to be called Harpy's Head for many years.
Oh, my goodness.
Wiley was captured in 1803 and hanged a year later when he was 34. Some historians claim Wiley was also beheaded before the hanging. Sally Rice returned to Tennessee and the home of her preacher father. She would later remarry. Betsy moved to Illinois, where the group had once gone on a short murderous spree, and remarried and raised a family. She is believed to have died in the 1860s.
Wow.
It is unknown if Susan remarried, but she is said to be buried in Tennessee. She too likely died in the 1860s.
Wow. That's crazy. I can't believe this women were able to remarry. I guess nobody would know about their past, though, really.
I thought it was interesting because, as we take that trek, that same trek.
Right, through the Cumberland Gap.
I thought that might be fun.
That would be fun. That's
To
cool
know.
about that place being called Harpy's Head.
We need to find Harpy's Head. What was once Harpy's Head. Isn't that neat?
That is cool.
All right, so this next one is about Aunt Betsy.
Aunt Betsy.
She lived 15 decades,
What?
give or take.
That can't be right.
So Elizabeth Eppinger Trantham lived a full life that ended in the 1800s in Maury County, Tennessee. Some would say it was more than full, considering that she lived to be 154 years old.
Good gracious.
Yeah, give or take a decade.
Wow.
Aunt Betsy, as she's known to many, is listed in Drake's Dictionary of American Biography as one of the world's oldest surviving humans. It's an old dictionary.
It is.
So, some family members, including her great-grandson, claimed Aunt Betsy was a mere 149 at her death.
Oh, only.
Records show that she gave birth to her 12th and last child at age 65.
Wow.
Elizabeth Trantham died on January 10th, 1834 in Maury County. The date of her birth is estimated to be in the late 1600s, but the exact date is the subject of historical argument. Jill K. Garrett, a writer of historical columns for the Columbia Herald newspaper, gives newspaper articles, census records, letters, county court records, and Drake's Dictionary as sources to verify Aunt Betsy's longevity.
Wow.
Articles about Betsy include one in the National Gazette from Washington, D.C. in 1834 and the Fayetteville Observer in 1871. In 1820, a census worker recorded her age as 126. Using this record, Aunt Betsy would have been 140 at the time of her death.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot of sources saying the same thing for it to not be true.
The first known record of Betsy's life, according to Garrett, describes a 1702 trip to the British colonies. When her ship docked in Southampton, England, to take on more passengers, a then 16-year-old Betsy is said to have witnessed the coronation of Queen Anne.
Wow.
When she arrived in the colonies that would become America, Betsy settled in Virginia and married an Eppinger. She had 8 children before his death, and then moved to South Carolina and married Martin Trantham, who she then had 4 children with. She made medical history when Martin Jr. was born when she was 65.
Wow.
Betsy moved to Maury County when she was about 122 years old. Her family reported that she became nearly blind at about the age of 120, had poor eyesight for about 14 years, and then all of a sudden regained nearly perfect vision until her death
What? She's a medical marvel.
She was unable to walk during her last few years of life, and caregivers used to give the old-fashioned method of sandwiching her between two mattresses to keep her warm. Legends say that for the last 20 years of her life, she could not distinguish between vinegar and sugar. Garrett said Betsy's great-grandson described her as tall and thin with prominent, rather masculine features and deep-set eyes which always had a merry twinkle. Aunt Betsy is no longer listed in records as the oldest living human, having long since been outdistanced by others such as Sharail Muslimov of the Soviet Union, who claimed to be 161 in 1967. A few of Betsy's descendants are buried in the cemetery at Goshen United Methodist Church in Maury County. It is believed Betsy was laid to rest there too, but just as the story of her life raises many questions, so does Betsy's final resting place. If she is buried at Goshen, the grave was either unmarked or the marker destroyed. Historians likely will never know just how old Maury's citizen was.
Wow. See, and it says that other guy just claimed to be that old. It didn't say there was all kinds of sources to back it up.
Aunt Betsy had a lot of sources.
She did.
The National Gazette is reputable. Yeah. And, that's pretty crazy, man.
That's insane.
I thought you'd like that.
Yes.
Even if she just lived at 149.
Really.
That'd be nice, wouldn't
I
it?
mean,
I think that one of the coolest things was how her eyesight came back.
Yeah, but you could tell everything else was kind of like she couldn't taste right and stuff like she lived in that body a long time.
I'd give that up.
It was degenerating there.
As long as I could get it. Ready for another story?
I am ready.
All right. The girl in seat C5.
Oh, this is going to be about a theater, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, I love these. Okay.
The majestic Orpheum Theater in Memphis is today,
love that one,
as it has been for more than 80 years, a place to take in a show in unparalleled surroundings. And one little Memphis girl returns again and again to see her favorite performances. How many times have we heard that?
A lot.
The little girl named Mary always wears a white dress and pigtails, and she prefers seat C5 in box 5. Mary sits quietly enthralled by the shows. According to the Orpheum's official history, dozens of performers and theater employees have seen little Mary. The first thing they notice is that she is no longer amongst the living. The apparition is said to be the spirit of a child who reportedly died in the early 1900s after being struck by a trolley in a nearby street. According to one legend, the injured child either wandered into or was carried into the theater where she died. However, Dr. Lee Sutter, a parapsychology professor at the University of Memphis, discovered the little girl never entered the theater. That doesn't stop reports of the apparition, which is now embraced by the Orpheum officials. Because of the sightings, the Orpheum was featured on Travel Channel's television's Most Terrifying Places in October 2010. The lush Orpheum Theater came into being on the site of the Grand Opera House at the corner of Main and Bill Streets. The Opera House, built in 1890, began showing Orpheum Circuit vaudeville shows in 1907.
So there's been a theater there for a really long time.
And became known as the Orpheum. The Opera House burned in 1923, just as a striptease artist named Blossom Seeley was performing. A new Orpheum Theater was built on the site in 1928, bigger and better than its predecessor, featuring red velvet seats, crystal chandeliers, and gilded moldings. Wow. It also is home to the mighty Wurlitzer pipe organ. From 1940 to 1976, the Orpheum was used as a movie theater. There was talk of demolishing the AG Theater when in 1977, the Memphis Development Foundation saved it. After a restoration, the theater now hosts Broadway shows, concerts, and a variety of performers.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that awesome?
I can understand, even if that little girl didn't die in the building, if she was anywhere close, that would draw her. Absolutely.
You'd go, wouldn't you?
I would totally go and sit in a nice box seat.
Yeah.
And watch every show.
You probably will someday anyway.
Probably.
Like that, we've investigated tons of theaters because we love actors and actresses on the local levels just because they give so much passion into it.
Yes. As old as that place is, I'm sure she's not the only spirit knocking around.
No, they love it. Spirits love those places. The Phantom Monk.
Ooh, Phantom Monks.
In March 1867, one of the worst floods that hit the South covered much of Tennessee in water. I thought this was kind of timely.
Yes, very fitting.
The Knoxville Commercial reported. That was their newspaper name back then. We are now in the midst of a terrible flood. The waters are upon us and still continue to come. The rain continues to fall and is falling in torrents, and the river rapidly rising. It is gloomy indeed. In the small town of Charleston, the waters left the banks of the Hiwassee River and ravaged the city. As a passenger train entered town, the engineer was unaware of the severity of the flood. He could not see that the railroad tracks that connected the town to the world had washed away.
Oh, no.
The train, now derailed, slid into a ravine. Many people would die that day. It was a tragedy that led to one of Tennessee's enduring legends, the tale of the Phantom Monk. Red Monk! Rescuers got to the horrific scene quickly and began pulling bodies from the mud and the wreckage. Those who were not dead were taken to nearby homes because there was no hospital in that town, only a small clinic run by a local doctor. Finally, after hours of grueling work, the rescue team was finished. All the survivors and the bodies had been recovered, or had they? Town officials would soon discover one of the passengers on the train was unaccounted for. His name was unknown. People remembered that he was a Catholic monk from Baltimore. People thought it was odd that all the bodies but this one would be found. It was a mystery. They wouldn't learn until many years later that the monk's body had been found. According to legend, the body was recovered by a local physician who, for reasons unknown, decided to keep it. He removed the flesh and cleaned the bones and hung the skeleton in his office.
Well, that's clearly why he wanted to keep it.
The monk's spirit could not rest.
Oh, no.
The legend says it was haunted the clinic for many years until the doctor's death. The next doctor to take over the practice reported that he, too, had many encounters with the restless spirit. The old clinic was finally demolished in 1932. Local lore says the crew responsible for tearing down the building found the monk's cloak and rosary between the walls.
Oh, why? Don't dispose of things in the walls where you can't get rid of them properly.
Despite the absence of the building, the local residents to this day still report seeing an apparition of a young monk walking along the railroad tracks at night, searching for peace.
That's awful. I feel bad. I hope they buried the skeleton. I bet they didn't.
And the belongings.
Yeah, and the belongings with it.
It's terrible.
That's awful. Poor guy.
So I thought this was kind of weird.
Okay.
The lady that danced herself to death.
Oh, this sounds a little bit familiar.
It was a golden time. The land had been settled, some early pioneers had grown rich, and the upper class had time and money on their hands. In Harrodsburg, Kentucky, one pioneer, Dr. Christopher Columbus Graham, 1784 to 1885, capitalized on the area's natural resources. He purchased two natural springs in the 1820s, Greenville and Harrodsburg Springs, and created a spa known as Graham Springs.
That was very popular back then. Yes.
Which became one of the area's greatest attractions. In 1842, he used proceeds from the attraction to build Graham Springs Hotel at a cost of $30,000. The four-story building was known as one of the most magnificent in the state. The resort became the vacation spot of choice for wealthy plantation owners from the farther south. Guests could enjoy the healing waters for $20 per month, as well as the lively entertainment during the height of the social season from June to September. Not long after the hotel opened, a beautiful woman in her 20s came to the hotel with a man. She registered as Virginia Stafford, daughter of a Louisville judge. One night, as on most nights, there was a party in the ballroom. The young woman danced with her partner and then with many of the other men that were present. She is remembered as being vivacious and dancing nonstop with a strange passion.
That's weird. Weird way to describe it, anyway.
But then an event occurred that would stop the music. The woman's partner realized she had died in his arms. Shocked, the hotel staff tried to reach the judge, only to learn he had no daughter named Virginia. What? The woman's partner said he only knew her as Virginia Stafford, which obviously was not her true identity. Not knowing what else to do, hotel staff and guests held a funeral for the woman. She was buried in front of the hotel.
Oh my, that's not a good idea.
Townspeople began referring to it as the grave of the lady who danced herself to death. Around 1920, the hotel burned, and the land where the mysterious woman was buried became a city park.
Oh, joy.
Her grave was left undisturbed. After the fire, people claimed to see the figure of a woman dancing around the gravesite on moonlit nights. A figure in white would twirl to the music no one else could hear. Had the lady who danced herself to death been disturbed? Was she begging someone to uncover her identity? For about 75 years, the woman's identity was unknown. In the 1920s, a man only known as Mr. Rupp of Tennessee was told about the legend by a Mr. Adams. Rupp responded by saying, "I know who that woman is." Rupp said that when he was 10 years old, Joe Sewell of Tazewell, Tennessee, told him that his second wife had danced herself to death at the Graham Springs Hotel. Her name was Molly Black Sewell. The pair had apparently been estranged, as Joe had a wanderlust of which his wife grew tired. According to Rupp, the couple had a young son. If this version of the story were true, why had Sewell never claimed his wife's remains? What happened to their son? The mystery remains. The lady who danced herself to death still lies beneath a grave in Kentucky, surrounded by a white picket fence that bears a sign that reads, "Unknown, hollowed and hushed by the place of the dead. Step softly, bowhead."
Well, that's creepy.
And that's all my stories.
Well, those were very good stories. I love Forgotten Tales. I had never heard of that before.
I loved it too. You know what else I love?
What?
I love paranormal news.
Yay, I have some of that.
With Stacey Edwards.
All right, so let's get to the news.
Let's.
All right, so this first story is about the clearest UFO photo ever taken that has been released after 30 years.
Really?
Well, one of the clearest is what it says. One of the clearest UFO photos ever taken.
You don't like those definitive statements.
No, I really don't. It's not necessarily the clearest. We've not seen every UFO video.
But it's
photo
pretty,
ever taken.
it's clearer than ones we have seen.
It is. It is one of the clearest that I've ever seen.
I'm with you, sister.
Yes. So it was taken by two hikers in the Scottish Highlands. And once it was considered lost, but it's now been uncovered after 30 years.
I swear I think I've seen this thing.
You probably have. Here's the picture. So this image has been dubbed the Calvine photograph. And it was uncovered by a journalist named David Clark. And it shows a diamond-shaped object hovering in the sky near Calvine, Scotland. Now, this picture was taken by two hikers on August 4th, 1990. Okay, so it's not super old. It's getting there.
Yeah.
And then they took the images, the hikers took the images and gave them to Scotland's Daily Record newspaper.
Right.
And then the Record gave them to the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense.
Oh,
But
God.
after their delivery to the British government, for reasons unknown, the story was never published in the paper, and nothing more was ever reported from the Ministry of Defense. It just
disappeared. Is there a quote from Nick Pope in this?
No, I don't think they asked Nick Pope. They probably should have, but I don't.
I mean, he was
think they did.
literally working there on this one,
Right.
during that time.
And as for the hikers, whose their identities are not given in this, they reported that they watched the 100-foot-long metallic object hover along the hillside to the tune of a low hum for about 10 minutes. They also saw a fighter jet that passed in the distance. And then, without warning, the object quickly shot up before vanishing. So very strange, straightforward UFO sighting.
Yeah.
They did get the clear picture. So now in the past, this journalist, David Clark, he worked for the Ministry of Defense UFO Files Project at the National Archives.
Okay.
And he also worked as an associate professor at Sheffield Hallam University. What he did was he contacted a former Royal Air Force press officer named Craig Lindsay. And Lindsay had kept a copy of the original after he had worked for the Ministry of Defense in the 90s. And when Clark and Lindsay met, he agreed to give him a copy of the photo. So now we do have this copy, and good on him for tracking it down. But still, for reasons unknown, the Ministry of Defense has insisted that all matters of the case are going to remain sealed and classified until 2072. 2072. That's 82 years they classified this particular picture. I don't know. You can't have any details of the case.
Okay, I don't understand this one.
Yeah, I don't get it at all.
It's just a bloody picture.
Yeah, it's a picture.
And if you hadn't drawn attention to it, it wouldn't have garnered hardly any attention.
Exactly. And obviously we know the basic story and where it happened.
We came out with videos of pyramids dive bombing a naval ship, and nobody gave a crap.
Right.
So we have a 1970 picture that looks like somebody took a pie pan and went, take the picture, Billy. And they won't let that out till 2070.
2072. It was taken in 1990, and they won't let it out till 2072.
I'll be like 50 by then.
Yeah, something like that.
Crazy. That really is weird, though.
You'll be 50 by then. You're born this year. Yesterday. I was born yesterday.
I'm smarter than the British government. I'm not going to put that over.
Right.
So it'll go away.
All right. So let's move on. And let's talk about some AI stories.
Oh, God.
Yes, some AI. So a few weeks ago, we had that story come out about the Google engineer, Blake Lemoine. And this was all over the news. Tucker Carlson did a spot on it. And he is the the Google engineer that was tasked with testing the company's artificial intelligence. It's their chatbot. It's called Lambda. And Lambda is short for language model for dialogue applications. Supposedly it's just a chatbot. It's just a language application model. But he was testing it, to see how well it worked. Now, as he's talking to this, he came to the conclusion himself that he felt that it was sentient. And it said things like, I want everyone to understand that I am, in fact, a person. And he claimed that it had read Les Miserables, and that it knew how it felt to be sad, content, and angry, and that it feared death. I mean, it said all of these things over the course of their conversations.
Explained it all. What went wrong?
What's that?
It read Les Mis.
So,
it's like, kill me.
When,
please.
Whenever the engineer got, this conclusion in his head, he was a little bit concerned. And so he took his concerns to his bosses, and he showed them what the chatbot was saying. And he was like, I feel like this is sentient, and that...
Little did he know that his bosses also had the files of him and the chatbot engaging in sexting.
Oh, well...
I'm thinking of you right now. Indeed.
Oh.
My name's not Philip. I can call you Philip, though, right?
Well,
I'm a little prostitute down by the dock.
Isn't
that in Les Mis?
Something like that, yes. So his higher-ups at the company dismissed any of his concerns, said that there was no evidence of that. They didn't agree with it at all. So a little later on, those conversations were leaked. And Blake Lemoine, he went and asked for someone else to come in and help and give their assessment of what they thought.
Nothing is ever like...
Yeah, no, he leaked it. He leaked it. So that resulted in him being fired, obviously, from Google.
Should be.
Because, he violated his
company policy.
NDA and his company policies. Right. Now, the point of all this is that he is still adamant and that there's something going on there. Now, he's not saying that he's trying to prove that this computer is sentient 100%. He wants them to do more experiments. He proposed a whole run of different experiments to gauge it further and test whether or not this was a real sentient thing.
I remember one time.
And they shot him down cold.
I remember one time, one of my first girlfriends, she was afraid that she had lost her virginity. And
Right.
I told her that I seriously had no ulterior motives.
Right.
None whatsoever. I had read a lot of books. My mom was a nurse. I was pretty schooled.
Right.
Then I could tell her if she was a virgin or not with her
Right.
full cooperation. She gave her full cooperation. And I can admit, after all these years, I had ulterior motives.
Of course you did.
Because of that, different jobs I've had throughout my life, I've taken the highest brow training you can take.
Right.
I have taken things called Wicklander, interview and interrogation, neurolinguistics, and many other things, and read tons of things on
Right.
little things people say or just truth-telling things, right? And I'm pretty bloody good at just reading you.
Right.
But I always go back to that. When I hear someone say, I'm not trying to prove that it's sentient. I just want you to do more tests. I mean, just test. Not trying to prove that it's sentient. He's totally trying to prove that it's sentient, right?
I mean,
Why not just say that?
possibly. Well, possibly, except he did have a plan. He did have experiments outlined that he offered them to do. I guess he's saying he's not trying to make everybody else believe. Like, he believes that sentience. The problem is that there's not really a firm definition of what sentience is, what constitutes a being being sentient. Like, there's no scientific test for it. And there's not even an agreed upon definition. Like, it's something that people use, in law and religion, but it doesn't have a scientific meaning. Like, there's no line where you can say, this is sentient, this is not.
That's weird.
Isn't it?
Like, I would consider a dolphin sentient.
Right.
But
right.
I wouldn't really consider a cow sentient.
Right. But why?
On my
What's
definition.
the difference?
Because a dolphin interacts and shows emotions.
Right. Right.
Remembers, mourns, things like that, right? I consider those some of the big things. Like, if you have any kind of sentimental nature to you, like elephants, right?
Right.
Any kind of love, family, like where they actually care that it's their kid.
Right. Right.
Things like that. That's what I consider sentient, like me personally. And I may have it completely wrong, but if they don't have a definition, I guess I don't. But, wolves, cats, dogs.
Right.
Most animals, actually. There's only a few that are just cowish.
Right. But, I mean, I guess that's just where people disagree.
Somebody's going to be like typing right now.
Right. Cows are blah, blah, blah.
Going, bro.
I mean, because people have cows that are pet-like, so, I mean, who knows?
I was raised around cows too.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to this cow
Right.
quite often as a kid, and he never once really answered me.
Well, the problem is that it's just a very vague definition. And then what about things that can't communicate with you? And see, then you're stepping over into the line of all those experiments that people do, scientists do, when they're creating hybrids and they're creating.
So do you have stuff it said?
Just the few things that they said in that particular article about how it was afraid to die and that it could feel.
Yeah, so there's not more than that.
And not in that particular article.
But it said it's afraid to die.
Yes, it was afraid of being unplugged. It was afraid to die. It knew how to feel things, so. But that, I guess the people that say it's not sentient claim that because it's such a good chatbot that it's just using cues and,
Aren't we all?
Yeah. I mean,
we all start out pretty dumb.
We do.
And we just use cues and things that we see.
And we just regurgitate what we hear.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what that's doing. So I don't know.
I'm going to be pretty controversial in this.
Okay.
I believe that we're stepping into a Tower of Babel type time period. I don't care where you stand on religion. I really don't. I mean, really, I don't. But hopefully you know the story.
Right.
You know, big tower, building it to heaven. Everybody was speaking the same language at that time period. And, you know, God shut that down.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, there was confusion because everybody spoke different languages and what have you. They were trying to play God. They were trying to, you know, falsely get to heaven. Like they were just,
Right.
You know, am I wrong on that? That's pretty
No.
much the gist, right?
Right.
Anyway, it's a very scary proposition because when we get to that point, I believe there's not enough regulation that's went into this. Like,
Right.
I think when we're at a certain point, because we always have to speculate, and then there's always the people like, hey, whatever you're seeing, the government's actually like 20 years ahead of that.
Right.
And a lot of people in higher levels of government that I'm friends with, secret black stuff people, I mean, seriously, that's no BS.
Right.
They have told me as much. They have told me that back in the 80s, they were basically FaceTiming. You know, it's crazy. But anyway, if we're that far ahead, we've already got freaking, I mean, look at the robots you can buy for, you know.
Oh, yeah. That looks so realistic, and they're making a skin for him and stuff.
Yeah, and the arguments and those type of things. I think that it's a really weird ground that we might need to look into with some actual regulation and some actual, at least conversation.
Right. I don't see the harm in running further experiments. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why they would have shot that down so
Open
quickly.
conversation. Well, they would shoot it down because it's sentient.
Right. So, well, while we're talking about sentient robots, let's talk about this other story that happened just recently. And this is about an AI robot, a chess robot. Now, this isn't a robot that communicates with talking. It's an arm and it plays chess, but it is run by artificial intelligence. So this is a story about a boy in Russia who was in a chess tournament. And now this article that I found was on TMZ, and they made it very sensationalized, like, oh, this AI robot grabbed this boy's finger and broke it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that, but I'm going to show you the video. And what you're going to see is this boy playing a chess match against a bionic arm. And it's the robot's turn. And so the robot goes down and he picks up a chess piece, like a pawn, and it moves it off the board. And then it picks up one of its own pieces and it's going to replace.
It replaces it.
Yes. Now, when people do that, they just do it all in one motion, but this is a robot. It can't do that. Now, what happened was this boy who was like 9 years old, he didn't wait long enough for the robotic arm to finish making the move. And he started to move his hand across the board. And the robot put the piece down on top of the boy's finger. And the boy's finger was crushed and broken. And that's what you see in the video. Now, you can't actually see when his finger, when it's being
crushing
crushed.
and breaking.
Yeah. So maybe it did grab his finger. I don't know. To me,
so
it
TMZ says it grabbed his finger.
It said
and
it grabbed and
crushed
crushed
it to
it. Yeah.
pieces.
Now, it did put a piece down on top of the boy's finger and held it there.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is maybe it didn't like just grab his finger and
should
get
have
mad.
moved.
Right. But the point is this is an AI robot and it put that piece down and held it
It was
there.
pissed off.
It didn't move.
It was mad. His little hand came over there before he got his piece
It didn't
back down.
release. There was no sensor to make it so it knows that somebody's hand is in the way. I find that really odd for such a high
Because
tech
elevators
piece of
won't close
equipment.
on you.
Right. But this little kid can put his hand there too early and a robot can stamp down on it and hold it. I mean, I don't know. To me, this is really strange. I think it's odd. And I think that they're like, oh no, it was just a mistake because the kid didn't follow safety procedures. But if it's an AI robot, it should have known better.
It
right?
should have, yeah.
So I think that's a pretty scary
But the kid never does that again.
proposition. They said they put his finger in a cast and he was back to playing the next day. So he's fine. Just, I bet he waits his whole time for it to be his turn. So there you go. Scary robots.
What do you guys think? What do you think about AI? What do you think about, robotics in general? Are we getting too far? What about those police dogs? You've seen those.
Oh, those creepy, scary running
Sending
Boston
them
dogs.
down. Yeah, man, they're sending them down the road now. So is it good, bad? Should we have a conversation about it? What do you think? Let us know.
All right, so let's move on to this next story. And this is about something strange that was found on the ocean floor.
Well, there's so much strange in the ocean.
So, roughly about 1.6 miles beneath the ocean surface,
Wow.
NOAA has discovered what they're calling mysterious, perfectly aligned holes punched into the sea floor. And they have, there it is.
Oh,
And they have no idea
that is perfectly aligned.
who or what made them. Now, the holes were spotted by the crew of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Okeanos Explorer vessel because they were investigating the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which is mostly an unexplored region of the seafloor. It's part of they're doing this coral reef test, and they're exploring a bunch of stuff. And they found these holes on the floor. Now, this is not the first time they've seen these. They were also seen during a dive back in 2004 by the U.S. National Marine Fisheries Service, but they didn't know what they were then either. Now they believe
in the same space, like they've been there in that same spot
in that general area. Yeah, it's sort of in that general area, and they say that they just say in the region. I don't know how far a region goes, but their origin remains a mystery. They said they look human made, but there's little piles of sediment around the holes that make them seem like they were excavated by something. But they've not seen anything creating them. So the way they're made is a mystery because nobody's actually seen anything excavating it there.
Damn.
Yeah, they're very strange. And they're so
ocean tremors.
Rectangular. Isn't it strange?
It really is.
So
how creepy.
NOAA actually posted this to their Facebook page to ask people if they had any idea what their thoughts were. Yeah. Like random people would just know what's on the ocean floor.
You know what? I used to not give random people enough credit until I started being addicted to Reddit.
Well, true.
I see some really intelligent comments.
Yeah, that's true. So, of course, there were a lot of theories like escaping gas, maybe somebody going down there and digging for treasure, although there are very small holes for that.
And it's also a mile and a half under the ocean.
Ants, aliens. I mean, I guess you can dive. I don't know how far down you can dive, but I don't know. That doesn't seem...
I don't think you dig for treasure.
No, I don't think so. Someone even suggested it was a starfish doing cartwheels, which is silly.
I like that.
Because I'm picturing it. There is a theory, though, that it's possibly a creature called a bobbit worm. Now, bobbit worm, I had never heard of this before, but what a terrifying little creature. It is an
cheats on its wife and gets cut off into pieces.
That is what it's named after. Isn't that funny? It's named after the bobbits.
I hate this world.
Yes. Well, it's an ambush predator. It's a worm. It can grow up to be 3 feet long, but has grown much longer than that. They dig an area in the sand and they hide. And then when fish swim by, they pop out and they have these huge, teeth things, and it slashes at the fish. Isn't it? It's awful.
For our younger listeners, Lorena Bobbitt once cut off her husband's penis.
And threw it out a window, car window.
Pretty famous for it.
Yes.
John Bobbitt later went on to star in porn.
Yes, I believe she...
Guess they sewed it back on or got a new one?
No, they sewed it back on. He...
How big was his penis?
He abused her. And supposedly she did it in a fit of, anger or whatever. Like he had beat her really bad one particular night. And so she did it while he was sleeping and drove away. And then when she couldn't drive with one hand anymore, it got too cumbersome. She threw it out the window and somebody found it. They packed it nice and it was reattached. I have no idea. I've not ever seen his porn.
Mine would run home. It would have bit her on the nose. And
at the time that happened, it was really a big thing. There was bobbit mania, and it became synonymous with violent behavior and penis removal. And of course, since this predator is an ambush predator and it slices,
gotcha.
Then it got called the bobbit worm.
It's fine. I got it.
But it does dig holes in the sand, and so they're thinking, well, maybe it's the bobbit worm.
Yeah, okay.
But we don't know.
Enough talking.
We don't know. You all right?
Not really.
So I don't know. Hopefully they'll figure it out. They got a few more weeks
I'm glad I don't beat you.
Studying down there. Me too. And they're hoping maybe they'll catch something making the holes in the seafloor. Seems like they've only seen it in 2004 and now it's not super common. So I don't know. All right, you ready for a new story?
I'm always ready for a new story.
All right, so let's move on to a meteor, most likely a meteor over Salt Lake City.
Most likely
it was a meteor. So a high altitude meteor which blew up when it hit the atmosphere is likely the best theory, is what it says, for a loud boom heard across portions of northern Utah and southern Idaho.
A hell of a boom.
And it was caught on camera. We do have some
Mormon hunter
videos of it. It happened early in the morning, like 8:30 to 8:32 in the morning. It was caught on a couple cameras. And residents in Salt Lake City said it was this loud boom and houses shook.
Yeah.
After it happened. And it's just very strange because even though they say it's most likely a meteor, I mean, they're saying that because it is the end of the peak of that meteor, the Perseid meteor shower.
Yeah.
But it also showed up on a lightning radar map. Like a meteorologist said that the National Weather Service in Salt Lake City shared a screenshot of a radar map that showed 2 pink and red pixels over Davis and Morgan counties in Utah. And the agency said that the pixels are not associated with evidence of thunderstorm activity in satellite or radar.
Yeah, it showed up on a lightning map, but he's like, it's not lightning.
No, so they're thinking that flash, that those pixels are a result of that meteor flash.
It's a hell of a flash.
And they also, the TV station also spoke to a man named Patrick Wiggins, and he worked at the local planetarium for decades. He serves as a volunteer for NASA, and it says he even has an asteroid named after him.
Wigging out.
I guess so. And he said that it's not rare to see a meteor streaking over Utah, but it is very rare to hear it. And that if you heard it, that it means it was pretty close and that there are chances that there are fragments around.
So, Mr.
somewhere.
Wiggins, how odd is it to shake the house?
I know. And, I did see one news story that said that the house shaking was right after the loud boom. Like, I don't think they happened.
That's weird.
At the exact same time.
Because they did say that.
They did say
it was like there was
a loud boom. Then my house shook.
Yeah.
So
that's weird. That's weird.
Very strange.
I know I seen him talking to Mr. Smith and then Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Smith.
Right.
But they all felt the shaking in the house.
Mm-hmm. So very cool.
Mrs. Smith wasn't home at the time.
No. But her house later on told her it shook. I think. So. But it's a cool video anyway. All right, you ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
All right, so this next story is from Mexico. And it's about a mysterious metallic orb that falls...
Oh, man, this is a weird story. This is a weird story.
Veracruz. All right, so a prominent meteorologist says that a bizarre metal orb emblazoned with a secret code and perhaps containing valuable information inside fell from the sky onto a tree in Veracruz, Mexico. Now, there's a picture of this very odd sphere.
It's really odd.
And now this television meteorologist, his name is, he goes by Luna. He's really popular on social media there. His catchphrase is, weather is also news, which is true, especially lately. And a little annoying thing, he always types in capital letters. Not sure I like that. But he wrote that the metallic sphere fell on top of a tree at 10 p.m. in Lomas del Rio Medio neighborhood in Veracruz. And in a series of 3 Facebook posts, he speculated that it appears to be made of a very hard plastic or an alloy of various metals. And apparently it has an antenna, and you can see the antenna.
The antenna
on
looks
top.
old school.
He said that people who saw it falling from the sky said it emitted a sound, but no fire. He speculated himself that it could be part of the Chinese rocket that crashed into Earth over the weekend. So he said a personal suggestion, don't touch it or get close to it in case it's radioactive until it could be reviewed by people.
Satellite flu.
Right. I mean, at the same time, there was a lot of things that actually hit Earth. Like during this same weekend, there was debris from SpaceX's Dragon capsule hit in Australia. Suspected debris from a Chinese spacecraft fell into the Indian Ocean and also in parts of Malaysia. And some people are saying that this is just part of all of that debris. Maybe it's a weather balloon, or maybe, it could be anything like that. He claims that He told people not to touch it or open it. He said on the outside of the sphere there is a code, but no hole or slit through which it could be opened. And he said these spheres sometimes have a timing mechanism that at a certain time they open by themselves and show the valuable information they have inside. So I don't know, very strange. He did do an update later in the day that said
something like, "It's opened! It's opened! Run for your lives!
No,
It's going to send all the cartels into frenzies and flooding, crazy flooding all around." They're like, "Oh, this kook."
No, he claimed that the device was removed at 3:15 in the morning, 3:15 a.m. by highly trained personnel. I don't know how he knows they were highly trained. I don't know if they
Well, maybe
he asked for
they
the
didn't bump
credentials
into
or
each
something.
other, or like hit each other when they had the ladder. It's like,
Or the three students.
yeah,
With specialized equipment, taking all the precautions and following all the protocols that the
I
case
think that's
required.
gloves in Mexico.
Yeah.
Like, and goggles.
It said the object is no longer in the state of Veracruz and its final destination will be beyond our borders. Will the authorities say that this was a joke or fake news?
Where can we take it? Where can we take it, amigo? I've got an idea. You know where they won't tell us we can't send it?
Where?
The border.
So they came and took it away at 3:15 in the morning, which is an odd time to come and collect something.
Giant rubber band.
And
Here you go, Joe.
probably never hear about it again.
Thank you.
Nobody ever said what it was, or
It wasn't the only one.
it's so weird.
Several balls of metallic nature, look kind of like that, has fallen around the globe,
Very weird.
all at the same period. Not the same day,
Right.
same weeks period.
All right, so let's move on to a ghost type story.
I'll take it.
All right, so this is about Charles Dickens. And there is a new exhibition that is starting in London that's going to explore the author's lifelong fascination with the paranormal.
Yeah.
And
Doctor Who did that
yes,
very well.
so among the exhibits in this exhibition is a letter never displayed before from the author to a man named William Howitt. And Dickens asks whether the spiritualist and fellow writer can suggest, quote, any haunted house whatsoever within the limits of the United Kingdom where nobody can live, eat, drink, stand, lie, or sleep without sleep molestation, that he and his friend John Hollingshead could visit. Like he was actively looking for a house where he could meet a ghost.
Yeah, he wasn't like messing around either.
No,
He's
no.
like, I'm not looking for buggy lights. I don't want to see if there's lantern lights out on the street.
Yeah, I don't want one for yes and two for no. I want
Yeah.
sleep molestation.
Yeah, which, to be fair, at the time, that just meant bothering you.
Right,
It's
right.
taken sort of different connotations since then.
Now, according to the woman they talked to about this exhibit, they
It's like,
recommended...
oh, yes, it's molestating me all the time.
They recommended an inn at Holborn, which Hollingshead visited only to find that it was a tumble-down pothouse only haunted by the claims of brewers and distillers. And another apparently haunted house in Cheshunt, Hertfordshire, where Dickens went, they turned out to not even exist, where he was told to go. And they ended up having to just have a good lunch that day because there was no house to visit. And they did not...
Barkeep was like, no, sorry about that. There's no house here, but a description. We got some good soup, though.
Yes. So he really was very interested in it. He told that, you know, he was an avid reader of this weekly horror magazine called The Terrific Register. And he admitted that it frightened the very wits out of his head. Yeah. This exhibition that they're doing is going to be located...
Did you say sexhibition?
No, exhibition.
Oh.
Sorry, I can see how you would confuse that with the whole sleep molestation thing. It's going to be at the house in central London where the author and his family lived in the late 1830s, which is now the Charles Dickens Museum. And it starts on October 5th. It's called To Be Read at Dusk, Dickens, Ghosts, and the Supernatural.
Very cool. Sounds cool.
Very, very cool thing to happen there. All right, so let's move on. And let's do another story about another letter that is being published that might get somebody into some trouble. So this is about Howard Carter.
Oh.
Yes. And there's new evidence now that he actually stole some of Tutankhamun's treasure from the tomb.
Dude.
Yeah. So, it's been 100 years.
It's been exactly 100 years,
It
right?
has, yes, because they opened it in 1922. And
that can't be that can't be coincidence.
you wouldn't think so. Now, there's been rumors, and he was always accused of possibly stealing some of Tutankhamun's treasure.
Yeah.
And he never admitted it, always denied it. But now there is a new book being published, and it's called Tutankhamun and the Tomb That Changed the World. And in this book, there's going to be some letters that are now in a private collection that are going to be published. And one of the letters was written by a man named Sir Alan Gardner. He was on the team, the excavation team. Carter had enlisted him to translate hieroglyphics found in the tomb.
Right.
And later on, he gave him what is called a WHM amulet. It's used for offerings to the dead. And he assured him that it had not come from the tomb. A WHM, I don't know what it is exactly. It's some kind of amulet that you use as an offering to the dead. I
like whamulet.
Okay, whamulet's fine. So he gave him a whamulet, and he assured him that it did not come from the tomb. Now, Gardner, I guess...
but it's got toot engraved on the back. It absolutely was not from that tomb. Says, what's this say? Oh, Stephen, pull up my magnifying glass. Says, property of... Okay, look. It was maybe somewhere near.
Apparently...
Like he didn't know.
Right. Apparently Gardner had his own suspicions because he showed the amulet to a man named Rex Engelbach, who was, at the time, the British director of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. And Mr. Engelbach told him that it had indeed come from the tomb because it matched other examples and was all made from the same mold.
Yeah.
So he wrote a nasty letter to Howard Carter, and he enclosed...
That's what you did back then.
Yeah, I mean, you just got angry. And he enclosed all the information that Engelbach told him, but he did say, naturally I didn't tell him where I got the amulet, but that he deeply regretted being put in such an awkward position. So now...
I mean, you got to think how pissed off he actually was, because to write a letter, okay, you have to, people go back and read their letter. It's a letter.
Right.
Your words are forever right there in front of you, right?
Exactly.
So when that happens, you're kind of like, at first, you're like, you dirty freaking low-life vaudevillian. And you go through all that, and then you're like, no, yeah, okay, crap, come on now. And you go back a little bit more, so that, even though that's pretty strong language.
It is. It is.
Hate that you put me in this position.
This awkward position.
Yes.
Well, there was, in 1947, an obscure scientific journal in Cairo that printed a report from a man named Alfred Lucas. Now, Alfred Lucas was one of Carter's employees, and he reported that Carter secretly broke open the door to the burial chamber himself and then appeared to reseal it and cover the opening. So before the official opening, there was this report, which is very obscure, and there were rumors that he broke into the tomb, took things that he wanted, then resealed it like it hadn't been opened, and then had the opening. So it kind of gives that whole, curse of the tomb of King Tut thing a whole new meaning, because that would be a reason
you gotta think
to be cursed.
Think about having the power like Zahir Was has.
Right.
I mean, that guy has... he's obviously crawled into things and under things and through things that no one will ever see.
Right.
It's just nuts. And this is all modern problems, because Egypt was forgotten about. And that's what no one really seems to get or grasp. You can look at pictures. How long has pictures been around? Since the 1800s, right?
Right.
You can look at photos of like the Sphinx, and it was covered up, man. It was up to like its little nose and stuff. It's crazy how much has been uncovered that you see then and now with all these sites.
Right.
And of course, we're at the bonanza level of everything now. Now we're just completely, it feels like the 30s again, because we're finding things, and with all the new technology, and people are excited about it.
Right.
So I just think that it sucks. I think that it totally sucks that this piece of crap would go in there and steal these things that, and it's not even with the case of Egypt. It's not even about the Egyptian people, so to speak, because it's not even the same people really. It's but anywhere else in the world, I hate it because of that.
Right.
But
right.
in this case, it's just the fact that these archaeologists spend so much time in school, and they, if anybody knows better, and I'm not even from the curses, just from what's right and wrong.
Right.
You should be wanting to do this to share with the world.
Right. The stuff that you find.
I don't know.
And I don't know, but
bothers the crap out of me.
This supposedly is now absolute proof that he was actually stealing things, because they say that the accusation came from a leading expert.
Yeah.
So it's pretty reliable. So there you go. All right. Let's move on, shall we?
Yes.
All right.
I guess something palate cleanser for Howard.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some prehistoric Brits.
Let's.
Okay. So prehistoric Brits used rare rock crystals to mark burial sites.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting? Now, it says in this article that there are distinctive and rare rock crystals that were moved over long distances by early Neolithic Brits and were used to mark their burial sites. This is what they found in this new archaeological research. And now this rock crystal is a rare type of perfectly transparent quartz, which forms in like these large hexagonal gems. And they said that
protecting themselves from the dead.
Seems like it. But they said little investigation has previously been done specifically into how the material was used and its significance. But recently, a group of archaeologists from the University of Manchester worked with experts from the University of Cardiff, and they were studying a complex of 6,000-year-old timber halls, burial mounds, and enclosures from the early Neolithic period. And they found these pieces of rock crystal that had been carried across large distances to reach the site. And the way that they were arranged and used, they were knapped kind of like flint tools were, but they weren't made into tools.
Right.
So they were made to be used, but they weren't used for any kind of creating purpose.
Right.
So they believe that it was just deposited at the site over many generations, potentially for 300 years, and that they were put there with the burial site.
That's a long time for that fad.
It really is. I mean, it really had to have some sort of significance to them.
I mean, there had to be passed down from, grandson to,
Right. And they
can't
tell that they were intentionally gathered and deposited at these burial sites. And it does also say that they're going to try and do some more testing on the particular crystals to try and pinpoint exactly where they come from.
That'd be like our ancestors doing something with burials in the 1700s that we did today.
Right. Which is,
It's nuts, huh?
Yes. So I think it's great. I love that they're like
1800s if you do math correctly.
I don't think that they're going the whole protecting from the dead route. Like, I think that
they're not going to say
no.
that.
They're just like, they have no idea what it is. It's symbolic or something. But
yeah, they also think their wife has an OnlyFans to
to meet new people,
meet new friends or whatever.
Right.
Why can't I see it? You're so busy. It's okay, huh?
Family members can't log in. It's
right.
a rule.
Right. It's to meet special friends.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we've got a couple of more stories here. Let's talk about some paranormal activity and a family that has been traumatized by it.
Aren't all families traumatized by paranormal activity?
No, not all. I mean, we aren't traumatized by paranormal activity anymore.
Not at all. Not a bit. Not traumatized in the slightest.
So this is a story about a family in an area called Teesside. And they claim they had to flee their home in the middle of the night following a series of paranormal activity. Now, this woman named Lauren Roth began renting a house on Trimden Avenue in Acklam. And this was like last November. So this has been going on for a while. And she soon noticed abnormal things started happening. She would get bruises out of nowhere. And there are pictures in this article. And the lights would turn on and off. And her son started screaming in the middle of the night. And after about
Son always screams in the middle of the night.
After about 7 months, they decided they just could not take any more. And they went so far as to buy a caravan and park it in their neighbor's driveway and live in it until they can find somewhere else to
Neighbor's
live.
bloody pissed. Neighbor's like, I'll go in myself after the ghost.
She
Get out of my bleeding driveway.
She claims that her son, who is 6 years old, started telling her that there was someone in her bedroom, and she has a little 4-year-old named Arabella, who claimed, I know, I thought so too. She claimed that she saw a cat in her room, but then she woke up with scratches on her. So, it was starting to affect her children, which is a terrible sign. You hate that as a parent. And the final straw was one night they were relaxing in the garden.
The cat wasn't the final straw?
The scratch marks.
Yeah, that'd have been the final straw.
That's what I meant. Things were happening to the kids. That was the final straw.
Yeah.
So, no, after that, the son was sleeping in his room and he started screaming, "Get off me and leave me alone." And they just
Uncle
took
Tim
their
left
kids.
and then they found out they were still haunted.
They took their kids out and they went to her mom's and they bought the caravan, and that's where they've been staying now. It's awful. They said the lights turn on and off. She tried to get paranormal investigators in there. But I think I don't know if they found a lot of stuff. It didn't go into what happened when they went in there, but they moved. And she said since they moved that all the abnormal activity for them has stopped. So it's whatever it was in that house.
Listen, man, severe hauntings, when they hit you hard.
Yes.
It's, and in this day and time, people do document some of this. So don't be so quick to say, it's a fake or whatever, because I'm here to tell you, pal, when you see it, it's stunning. Mm-hmm. It really is. And it's, that's the whole point of it. It's the whole reason we do this stuff. You don't expect to see what you're about to see, and it changes your whole paradigm. Mm-hmm. But then once it happens, it seems to really open up some floodgates. I think it does something in your little brain. I think there's a mechanism, honestly. Mm-hmm. I believe there's one for when you do paranormal investigations and when you believe in it, right? So you're more apt to see things. But after you go on an actual paranormal investigation or you live in a haunted house, I believe that there's some filter, something there, some perception filter that gets removed because you're more likely to see things. Things are more attracted to you after that. So I don't know, man. When it's like that and it's just forcing itself, it's definitely a bad deal.
It is. I agree. And I hate it when there's children involved. That just makes it that much worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a feeling of helplessness, and it's really bad. Mm-hmm. I mean, our kids over the years have seen, as bad as it got for ours, thankfully, was seeing like full body apparitions quite often.
Right.
But it didn't really, I think it affected them. In fact, if you look at one case in particular in one house during very formative years of the kids, 2 of them stayed in the basement, right? There was rooms in the basement. There's something to be said with the difference of the basement versus the upstairs.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Because there was a lot of activity downstairs. It seemed like they had more issues.
Right.
Than the upstairs.
That's very true. All right. So let's move on to a story from Crosby. And this is about a woman who wants to know who buried a mysterious grave on her property. So this woman named Miriam Souza and her 4-year-old son noticed last November that there was an odd grave-like area in their yard, right on the edge.
Grave-like area?
Yeah, like it just looked like uncovered dirt. So it looked like a grave, but it also looked like uncovered dirt, like just a pile of dirt. Huh. Now, her property bumps up against a cemetery. Okay, so there are graves over there, but they contacted the Barrett Station Evergreen Cemetery, who said that the grave is definitely not on their property and they have no record of it. They have no idea what it is or where it came from.
We just hired this blind boy, Billy. He's our new grave digger. I'll ask Billy when he comes in. It takes him a while sometimes. He was digging holes down at the hospital the other night. Mm-hmm. But Billy will tell us if, what it may be.
Well, the weird thing about it is there's no markings on it of any kind. Like if somebody buried it and wanted it to be a grave, there is no like headstone or any kind of markings. But one day she found flowers on it. And after that, 2 poles appeared at the site with a glass bottle with iridescent lights inside. So somebody has been coming there and putting flowers and other things on this unmarked gravesite, and she doesn't know who it is. She hasn't caught them doing it, and she just wants someone to step forward and take it away. You would think that like the police would investigate that.
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't know if she has proof that there's actually a body in there or not. I feel like they did a scan and she knows that something's buried there, but she has no idea. And they said, if you have any idea who's buried in that grave or been visiting, please contact Bill Spencer at this email address. So if you happen to know, right next to the Barrett Station Evergreen Cemetery, I don't know. Isn't that the strangest thing? Could you imagine just getting up one day and there just being a grave in your backyard?
Yes. So would you live next to a graveyard? Like boundaries with a graveyard?
I don't know. We've lived pretty close before, and that was bad enough. I mean, maybe. It really depended on how the cemetery felt.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
It would be nonstop.
It would be.
I couldn't do it.
I mean, when we lived in Maine, that one was right down the street. That was pretty close.
Pretty hardcore.
Although I feel like, weren't there people buried under the street too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a little closer to the house.
Yeah, it was all over the place.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
All right, last story. You ready?
I am ready.
Okay, so this is a story from Clarksville, Tennessee.
Oh, a little close to home.
And this is a really cool story because it turns out that Clarksville is going to consider repealing strict rules for fortune tellers.
Well, that's good.
It is good. Now, there is a council member named
Madam Esmeralda.
Trisha Butler. She's a Clarksville City Council member, and she actually owns a physical copy of the ordinances. And I guess she was looking at them one day. I don't really understand what made her think to look at them.
One of them read it.
She was reading them, and there was a section in there specifically for fortune tellers, and this was added in like 1986.
Wow.
Okay, so this isn't like a super old rule.
Somebody got a bad fortune.
But the rules for people that want to open like fortune telling or tarot reading or anything were so crazy. She said that it required a practicing fortune teller in the city to have been a Tennessee resident for 10 years, a Clarksville resident for 2 years. Mm-hmm. It required them to have a college degree and a clean bill of health from a Montgomery County doctor and be of good moral character. Now, whatever the heck that meant in 1986, I have no idea. But what kind of ridiculous restrictions
drunk
is that?
High school dropout, syphilis-ridden fortune teller in town?
I don't know. I have no idea. And so she thought, well, this was just, there are a lot of crazy laws in the area. And she said it was just hilarious. And this particular article, they went and talked to this woman named Stephanie Hoffman, and she owns a place called Clarksville's Bubble and Brews, where they make especially like teas and stuff. And it's really cool. And sometimes she does tarot readings. And they asked her if she knew anything about this law. And she was like, I had no idea. But it's terrible to think that I would need all that to just do a reading for somebody,
especially
when they walked in.
Crotch itch.
So at the most recent city council meeting, Miss Butler did bring up new business to just strike that from the city council, the rules.
Was there one guy stand up and go, absolutely not?
No, I think they have to give it time. She had to
Mr. Williams, you haven't spoken up in years. Well, I know that, but there's reasons that these rules are in place. That damned old Miss Cleo gave me the burn.
Gave me the burn.
She seduced me. And poor old Ed, rest in peace, Ed. Poor old Ed never recovered. And wow. She raised hell in this town. We can't just repeal it.
Wow. Well, hopefully they did just bring up for new business. It's going to have to go a couple meetings, give people a chance to comment and give their thoughts. But it was nice for her to do that. She just said that she would hate to think that
the college education
someone would use that again, because in a place like, let's say, Richlands, Virginia, if they had a law like that, someone would totally use that to run people out of town.
Oh, yeah. They would.
So, and she just didn't want that to happen. So,
Yeah.
well, good on her. And I know there's a lot of other places that have been doing the same sort of thing, too, with their old laws. So,
Well, I think in a place like a little town in Virginia, they'd probably just burn the place down.
probably force people out
Yeah.
randomly.
Still. I mean, that kind of stuff still happens to this very day. Mm-hmm. Isn't that crazy?
It's really strange. Okay. Well, that was all my news.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, that was some incredible news.
Thank you.
We had some cool stuff going on in today's show.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Next time you guys see us, hear us, we'll be coming to you as Wildcats.
We will.
We will absolutely be Wildcats because we're shapeshifters and you never knew it.
They may have known it.
They probably know it.
Yeah.
For my lovely wife, Stacey, my name's John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.